Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you joining us this morning. If you're with us live on Facebook, thank you for that. If you choose to watch these or listen to these later, we appreciate that as well. All of these shows, we upload a video and audio version to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We'd appreciate you checking those out. They are free. The audio, if you're watching us live on Facebook, the audio is a lot richer, deeper. It just sounds so much better. So if you choose to watch them there, that's fine too. Do ask that if you are watching us live or if you're watching the video version, please don't do that and drive. Thanks for that. The news is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We're pushing out all of our content in a variety of different forms on those platforms. Appreciate you. Check us out there. Give us a like, share, follow. YouTube asks you to subscribe. No, it does not cost money. It is free on that platform. Your traffic this morning is heavy. Hatchell's kind of clearing up. I have personal experience with such things. Right now, delays on 16 on Watson, north and south of the high school on Live Oak, that would be. Heavy delays again on I-12 heading westbound, backed up past Jubin this time, really all the way to the 10-12 split. So sorry, folks, it's going to be a slow going commute this morning. Heavy delays 64 heading into Central, and minor delays on 190 heading into Baton Rouge. It's already a hot one. It's 86 degrees. A high of 94 today. Probably going to be that heat index feels like somewhere over 100. Speaking of the heat, yesterday 20,000 bottles of water were distributed to the schools for the afternoon bus ride home for bus riders. It was very hot. It is going to continue to be hot for the rest of the week, really into next week. Thankfully, we've got it looks like we're going to have a little rain tomorrow. So maybe that afternoon rain will help. Chance of, your normal August afternoon thunderstorms through the rest of the week. We have a poll online, www.livingstonparishnews.com/opinion, also free. We will put a link on this show asking you, would you be willing to pay an extra $1, $2 million, who knows? Or do you have another idea on how to fund putting air conditions in the buses or air conditioning systems in the buses? According to Superintendent Joe Murphy, there are 275 buses. It would cost about $5 million to install air conditioning systems on all of those buses, plus you have to maintain them. So it would be we're interested to hear your thoughts on that. Obviously, there's several options. There's yes, or yes to any kind of funding mechanism. Yes, but only a specific funding mechanism. No, they should be able to find the money. Or no, it's just not hot enough, long enough to justify the expense. Also, if you just don't care, there is an indifferent option. So we're interested to hear your thoughts on that. Please give us a vote. www.livingstonparishnews.com/opinion. Again, yesterday, the school system handed out 20,000 bottles of water to bus riders home. They will do the same thing today. They did miss some schools yesterday. They started shipping out the bottles of water too late. They will not miss today. The superintendent told us that they will be leaving earlier today to make sure that they hit every school, that's 44 sites, with water before the buses leave. Moving on, last night, what a doozy. Crazy drainage meeting, but a lot of good information there came out in Walker. It was a normal city council meeting, but in anticipation of having a large crowd, which they did, they made the right call. They moved the meeting to Walker Freshman High, which is on the corner of Burgess and 447. Packed house. You also had Congressman Garrett Graves was there. Mr. Jay Grimes from WFB was there. Buddy Mincy, President of the School Board, was there. Mark Harrell from the Office of Emergency Preparedness was there. Mr. J. Rogers Pope was there. And several parish councilmen, including Jeff R., Tracy Gerlinghouse, Scooter Keene, and Gary Frog Talbert, all very interested in the information that they had to present. One thing that came up quite regularly from Mr. Jamie Etheridge, who is the Department of Public, or really he's the Chief of Operations for the City of Walker, is the fact that Walker drains into an unfunded drainage district. That came up several times in the meeting. It's very difficult to get the water out when you kind of run into an unfunded roadblock, for which the parish does. And Mark Mr. Harrell kind of admitted this. They do what they can. What that means, Walker is encapsulated by Gravity Drainage District 5. And Walker spends about $100,000 on drainage, and that includes digging ditches, replacing culverts. They put up a great graphic last night that showed that since 2016, new efforts have been made to dig, grade ditches as well as install culverts. They've increased that effort about 3 times over, and they continue to try to get better at it, while being encapsulated by Gravity Drainage District 5, who focuses on some of the larger watersheds in the area, which includes the northern part of Taylor Bayou, West Coyote Creek, and Beaver Creek. The issue is that once you get all that water to flow downstream, first you have to deal with I-12, which is state territory, and a lot of the culverts running under I-12 are silted in. Some of you who've been following us for a while may remember that we covered in about 2012, the mayor then, Rick Ramsey, was able to get funding from the state to take some backhoes and dig out those culverts under the interstate. They were silted in. It was almost 9 feet. Well, they've silted in again, so that water flows downstream, hits that barrier, and backs up. What makes it even worse is that once you get south of I-10, again, this phrase that needs to be said many times, you hit the unfunded drainage district. If you might remember, previous elections were held to try to find a funding mechanism for districts 6 and 7. 6 is in the northeastern portion of the parish. 7 is a giant area that it encapsulates much of the southeastern portion of the parish. And it's not, it was very hard for them to find the money for it. However they were going to do it, whether it was a sales tax or a property tax, they weren't going to make a whole lot of money off of it anyway. But they were trying to find a way to do it. Mr. Harrell said that there's a renewed vigor from the parish councilman from that area to try to find a way to do it. So we will see. Some of you may remember we had Councilman Jeff Ard here, who would have part of his district, which is District 1. He also represents a small portion of Walker, at least people who have Walker addresses. And part of his district has Gravity Drainage District 5 in it, but much of it is unfunded. So he had mentioned that he would be looking for a way to fund that. So we'll be keeping an eye on that piece of it. A lot of interesting information with regard to the current situation. They also had an engineer from Fort and Tabata by the name of Creston Brown, who stood up and had some real, the way he described it, it frustrates you, but at the same time it makes total sense. In that, a lot of these rains we're getting now are unanticipated rain events. And what that means is this. For instance, the 6 inches of rain that fell over 2 hours about 3 weeks ago, that's a 150-year storm. That just doesn't, now that's based on the current rainfall modeling systems that we use. And that's a 150-year storm. That just doesn't happen that often. But now it happens often. And one of the things that Creston brought up that's so frustrating is much of our infrastructure is at best designed for 100-year storms. At best. Most of it is not. I said most of it is, so very little of it is designed for the best, which is a 100-year storm. A lot of it is designed for 25 and 50-year storms, which these heavy condensed rainfalls just aren't those. They aren't that. They are, 100-year, 150-year, 200-year storms. And, what Barry dropped on us, comparatively speaking, it was little, but what he dropped on us that Sunday was a 125-year storm. And so we don't have the infrastructure that's designed for this currently. That's why when we get these heavy rains, streets overtop, drains fill up, because the pipes aren't big enough. If you have subsurface drainage, your pipes aren't big enough to handle that amount of water in that amount of time. So that was sort of the engineering perspective on it, is that the the models for designing these drainage implements are not, they're just not up to what might be a regular occurrence now. Mr. Jay Grimes from WAFB, as mentioned, was there. He got up and said, it does appear that more intense rain is occurring these days, that we're getting more intense regular storms than we normally do. He also did sort of come out with more of a common sense sort of thing, but he said, there is a price of progress and expansion, and this is it. What was once a forest, and the trees and the ditches and the ground itself ate up a lot of that water, was then turned into a pasture, which made drainage worse, which was then turned into a parking lot or a subdivision, which of course makes it even worse. And that's not against the people who live there. That's just the way drainage works. So there was a lot of the growth here and the expansion here has a lot to do with what's going on with the drainage. What also has a lot to do with the drainage is these weather events are more intense, they're more regular, and so we'll be paying attention. I have a nice neat map now, or chart, that tells me, okay, it rained this much over this amount of hours. That means this is X storm, So it'll be interesting to watch these storms as they roll through. Again, the big push there was that the district south of Walker is unfunded, which causes problems because coming back around to what Jamie Etheridge said, we can get the water out of here as fast as we possibly can, but if it hits a dam going south, it does us no good. We've in effect done nothing. So that's something to pay attention to. Mark Harrell also did say that the parish has 0 tax dollars to dedicate to drainage. That's not 100% accurate in that I think what he meant was large-scale drainage projects. The part of the Department of Public Works budget is for digging ditches and replacing culverts and things of that nature, which are drainage implements. But the parish does not have a large-scale drainage budget. They have to use grants for those sorts of things. And he brought up the West Coyell diversion, which is something that has been on the books for almost 8 years. There's one property owner in the way, and it's just that's a mess. Anyway, I've talked a lot about that. We had requests for a live video. We're sorry we couldn't produce that for you. We do have an entire pre-record video of the event that we will be posting in segments along with the stories. On those segments, those stories will be broken into what the city of Walker had to say, what the engineer and Mr. Jay Grimes had to say, and then what Mr. Garrett Graves had to say. And what Graves had to say is this, unfunded drainage is not sustainable. It's just not. He mentioned it to the news probably about 4 months ago when the bids were being let out for the Amite River clean dredging and the weir repair and those sorts of things, is that federal disaster funds are not always going to be available. So he asked that people keep that in mind. Now, the folks in Walker are already paying a millage to Gravity Drainage District 5 for their services. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Drainage District 6 and 7, which are at present unfunded. So that was I condensed a 4-hour meeting into. Now that's what the experts said. There were a lot of citizens with a lot of questions, a lot of complaints, a lot of concerns, and some of those questions, complaints, and concerns are tough because it goes right back to there's nothing that the city of Walker can do about the unfunded drainage district south of the city. So they'll be trying to work with the state, with the parish, and with those parish councilmen, seeing what kind of funding that can be produced. And again, Mr. Jeff R. joined us here on the show to talk about getting a drainage district in his district, in his parish council district. Now he's still north of the interstate too. He might run into some similar issues. So getting that southern drainage district funded is going to be a big push from the parish in the coming months. I don't mind telling you. Moving on. Tonight, the Denham Council meets. I'll be there. They will be considering bids for the demolition of Old City Hall. at 941 Government Street. If you'll remember, the deal that was struck was that FEMA would reimburse the city for the value of the buildings and the property for the fire chief's old headquarters at the corner of Government Street and River Road, for the old City Hall, and for the street department building. The street department will be moved elsewhere. And the idea there is that they were able to take that money, or will be able to take that money, to do renovations on Old City Hall, change the landscaping and just the feel of the area there, make it a little more green, a little less parking lot. And from there, these other 3 buildings will be demolished, turned into green space. They're considering things like a pavilion and those sorts of implements. Family friendly, community friendly for that area. So we'll be looking to see what their plans are post demolition. They may discuss them tonight. We will let you know. Former Denham Springs basketball standout Torrey Odom has gained will travel. He spent a lot of his career at one place, but he is going to be finishing up in Cincinnati. There it is. My apologies. I thought it was Cincinnati, but I wanted to be sure. He started off in Seattle. He's now moving to Cincinnati to probably finish his career. It was a lot of fun to watch Torrey in high school. So you can read about that, www.livingstonparishnews.com/sports. Again, he traveling from Seattle to Cincinnati to finish his career. Bringing up the river cleanup one more time. Miss Rachel Deaton put that on, or was the organizer for that. A lot of people showed up from both Livingston and Ascension, got in the boats and started getting out and finding things that you just would not believe. And, Tracy Girlinghouse, parish councilman for District 7, who represents most of Walker and was there last night at the meeting, sent me the picture of his Mickey Mouse boat ornament, and it looked like a pirate ship. It's pretty grody looking. It's pretty gnarly. But they found all sorts of things, from submerged boats, refrigerators, furniture, to small trash as well. Ms. Deaton put out on Facebook as well that there is still trash caught up in small inlets and, cuts in the river as you go down river. But you can't get there by foot. You need a skiff or an airboat or something like that to be able to get to all that trash. And so she put out the call. If you happen to have any kind of boat like that, please give Miss Rachel Deaton a call ASAP, because they're still trying to get as much off of that river as they can. And there's all sorts of great pictures as well at www.livingstonparishnews.com/gallery. Rounding out the show with the feel goods. You don't want to miss this. The Grand Country Junction is welcoming Brian White, who has multiple #1 hits, and he's going to be in Livingston Parish on Saturday, August 17th. Show begins at 7 p.m. That's again, Grand Country Junction is welcoming Brian White. You can read about that at www.livingstonparishnews.com/arts and entertainment. Traffic is still heavy delays, starting to fade a little bit into more of just intermittent delays on I-12 heading westbound. Heavy delays after the 10-12 split heading westbound. Delays in Denham Springs on both Old River Road and on River Road, as well as 190 at 4-H Club heading into Baton Rouge. Delays on 64 heading into Central. A reminder that they handed out bottles of water yesterday to the bus riders. The school system did 20,000 total bottles of water. They will be doing that again today, as they expect it to be another hot one, and it will be. It's already 88 degrees, high in the 100s because of the heat index. Expecting some rain this afternoon, 60% chance, 80% chance of rain tomorrow, which is going to offer a little reprieve from the heat. It'll be a little cooler. And then we'll be getting back into sort of the swing of the heat for a little while, at least in the next week, but it does look like some rain will be helping. We appreciate it if you joined us today, Facebook Live. If you listen to these later, we appreciate that too, or watch them. We do offer the video and audio versions online at www.livingstonparishnews.com /podcast. Those are free. We are also $5 online for the rest of the site. That is pervasive. If you're having trouble staying logged in, please give us a call, 225-665-5176. We are twice a week in print on Thursdays and Sundays. That's $10 a month. We have moved to a magazine style on Thursdays, and we'd appreciate you checking that out. The news is also on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube, and we have an app for both Apple and Android devices. We send out push notifications. It's great for breaking news and weather updates and that kind of thing. If you're not interested in paying the $5 a month, you can ignore the stories. We do label things breaking news, which are free. We also push our long form podcasts as well as our our long form podcasts as well as these shows out via that method. We will be talking, our podcast this week will be talking about the election. We also might have a special guest on Thursday. I'm waiting for confirmation on that one. So I'm not going to throw that one out just yet until I have confirmation, but I will tell you that there will be a podcast on Wednesday coming out that will be discussing the election, which is also the focus of Thursday's paper. It's all about who qualified, and as well as some of the other things that are on the ballot for October 12th. Again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. We had a long show today because we talked a lot about that Walker drainage meeting. Appreciate it if you hung with us. Also appreciate it if you watch this later. Mr. David Gray will be back in the seat this afternoon to check this out, and we will see you then.